Hey Al, it's Wednesday. I'm going to comment, pardon me, Wednesday, August 12th. Going to comment, doing a lot of stuff today. Going to comment quickly on the energy, the oil area. Going to get into a bit of a habit of usually somewhere around middle of the week, Tuesday, Wednesday, talking a little bit about, from a sectoral perspective, people might be interested in this. I know that, there's a lot of opportunity these days for people to buy CFDs. Most of the people that sell them are generally crooked, but, sometimes it's a place that you can actually make a lot of these particular trades and use a better amount of leverage than you're using with your equities. This is something more geared towards like using the ETF models on a sector basis if you're looking for a trading opportunity. And again, the focus that I'm going to give is I'm going to give you kind of the bigger picture, what I think you should be doing with the energy, and then also talk shorter term, because there could be people looking for some information short term on what they might want to do in terms of energy. So the first comment that I'm going to make is that energy is actually most ETFs, most sectors tend to be pretty good in terms of trading. They tend to have a lot more up and down, a lot more swing in them than what you tend to see in so far over the last 5 years in the S&P. And just because there's so much rotation back and forth between out of energy into something else, blah blah blah, and so the index doesn't really suffer a whole lot, but they can take places like the energy and other commodities out to the woodshed, shoot them up for a while, and then they might revisit them. So the longer term picture that I'm going to give you on the energy is still very bearish for us. At some point, we're going to be posting sort of a weekly update on our rating and ranks for the different things. The composite rank on the energy is a 1.7 out of 10. So that basically is almost on the very end of the sell side. And as energy prices continue to sort of pop, so over the next 2 to 3 weeks, if we do see a bit of an uptick, and I'm gonna put a grain of salt on that, and I'll tell you why in a minute. But basically, 1.7 is a sell. And so if you're really looking for a higher probability way to make money in this, is that you probably more, it's probably more advantageous for people to, be short. And this concept in the sectoral longer term view is we're not short. We generally not want to go short. So this is an avoid. So it may look compelling here, but it looked probably pretty compelling in this particular point as well, and you felt really good. Next thing you know, you're somewhere in the neighborhood of about 12% lower, over the course of a year. So at this point, um, you know, energy in my mind is going to take a while for it to sort of come back, and there's no real rush to get into it for anything. And generally, from our perspective, or from my perspective, is that I want to see that there's actually something that's happening with it. And again, I don't mind missing a little bit of the rotation. You'll hear that a lot from portfolio managers, but at the end of the day, you want to kind of get into something that's going to start to drive and give you some returns. And so, if the rest of the world is faltering, China's they're all lowering currencies. I don't know that the outlook necessarily is that particularly good for oil. I mean, there does seem to be a very crowded trade on the negative side of the energy market, but yeah, usually what you'll find is that this is the opportunity for some, bravado, large hedge funds to kind of start building a position and moving it around. But the sort of bigger picture on energy is that I don't see energy going anywhere. I mean, it could easily go within a 10 to 15% band. We can kind of see that relatively routinely at this point, and given the fact that we're starting to see an uptick in volatility and the level of selling that we've seen, or pardon me, the demand side, actually it's not even really the level of selling. It's actually a function of there's just really been not a lot of interest in people buying relative to the amount of people that want to sell. We can see it clearly at the bottom with the thick red line, just around my cursor, that this is at a level that we haven't seen in significantly, number of years, going back even to 2012 when the markets were down. The one thing I will point out to you, and this is why I don't necessarily know that even though you may see, some starts in the energy market is you often tend to see this at the bottom, that there will come a point where the whole system is breaking down very much like this, and that you will see a bit of a reversal, but short term. But you do tend to see a lot of chop that tends to occur within the market. And the point where we would start to become a little bit more interested in energy would be when it's rotating or moving out there. But from a shorter term perspective, there's some great opportunity potentially to beginning to trade the energy market or the oil market. Again, I would want to put more emphasis that the higher probability trade is to let this thing run a little bit and see where you're going to get a bit of a top over the next 6 to 8 weeks. Possibly go short, look for something that's over the next month and a half is going to retest the lows that we saw earlier, and then look for the market eventually to because right now we're starting to go into this. We broke down very at this particular point here. There was no short trading opportunity. Broke down below at this particular point. So first sign of things breaking down, and then everything was breaking down at this point. And even from that point, the market's almost about 8 or 9% lower, even after today's rally. And I think that you're probably going to waffle around in these particular areas short term. So, my suggestion is that you don't need to be in a hurry if you really want to buy this. Generally, you can kind of look for opportunities and potential points, but if you're looking at like a really good opportunity to pick on, to start trading and getting back into energy stocks. I mean, here's an example here where it's not too much. At this particular point here, it's not much lower than it was at the lows in this particular point. But you can clearly start to see that what you want to see is you want to see some of this negative activities, lose money. You don't want to be, here we didn't even get enough. At this particular point, we didn't even get enough of a rally to turn the system into a short trade. Remember that we use a generic kind of algorithm that's tends to focus into upward slope, slightly upward sloping, so it tends to make money when we've got chop and we're upward sloping. But when you don't have even enough movement in the ETF price to get it there, it's a big negative. So at this point, what I'm looking for, and again, I'm probably 6 to 8 weeks minimum away from this, is that I think you're going to see the market go up and down, up and down. I'm going to probably maybe give a bit of a boost with the Federal Reserve potentially not raising. We'll see how that plays out. But basically, I would like to see this market go short, and I would like to see the short trade start to lose money. And if you're really looking for an opportunity where this thing potentially can make you, big reversal cash, and that you're starting into this is kind of the point right in here where the energy market was showing some signs where it had a little bit of strength, robust, and that you could begin to buy it and you could trade it and make some money. And so, at that point, I still think that we're a ways away. I think what you're going to see is I think we're at a point very similar to this where you're going to have probably the next month or so, you're going to have a lot of up and down, especially if you see some negative news out of like the big sector areas of the world like Europe or China. So from a short-term perspective, I think there's an opportunity that guys can potentially turn this thing and pick off 5 to 6% trades over the next 6 to 12, possibly 18 months. But at this point, I don't think that given where the market is with the given where the price levels are and the overall trend rankings and everything else. And just a quick comment from a timing perspective, we're only about halfway through the cycle. So even at this particular point, we could see this thing pop up another $3-4 on the ETF, which is another 3-4%. But what I believe is that you're going to probably come back and retest back up and down at these particular levels. Once we start seeing that type of behavior, then we can kind of go back and reassess potentially is there an opportunity to make some money short term. And again, the big if is that at that point we'll have a much better understanding what the Fed's going to do. So recapping, oil stocks definitely very negative. Any kind of upside that and we probably will get some over the next week or so. Maybe even further we'll call it the next 3 to 4 weeks. If I own them, I would be a seller of oil stocks. I think the probability is really strong that they're coming back to their old levels here. So I would be flattening out. If I don't own any of this position, I would not be owning it at this point. It may look compelling, and that's what the institutions do. But at this particular point, there are other places where I think that are more valuable to put your money on the long side. From a shorter term perspective, uh, we've had, big cycle down. I'm wondering, what we'll get over the coming, few months. But I do think, you're going to reach a point where there's a lot of cycling activity, where there's 3 to 6% trades every, 6 to 8 weeks. That if people want to kind of, tie into that with it, algo. But that's something that we don't necessarily cover. I wouldn't cover a whole lot, but again, you know, are we getting closer to somewhere where we're probably going to see a bit of a bounce? I think so, but I think that it's not going to be as big as people would like. So again, the idea is that if you're on the long side on this short term, you got some profits, use short term pops to take them off, and then we'll update it every week or two. Anyway, good luck.